Welcome to Profitable Women, a podcast for the female business owner who wants to build a profitable and sustainable business that aligns with their life. We will talk about the money stories impacting your decisions, financial strategies to grow your profits, and how to embrace your female superpowers. I'm your host, Sheila Hansen, certified public accountant, business mentor, and certified coach. As a mom of three and business owner, I have spent the last 7 years supporting six-figure business owners make confident financial decisions while raising my babies. After making the hard decision to leave my job at a public accounting firm when I had my oldest, I'm now on a mission to empower women to build wealth without sacrificing themselves. If you find yourself avoiding conversations about money, are burnt out from working all the time, wonder where your cash goes, or want to learn how to pay yourself six figures, you're in the right place. Remember, the information in this podcast is general in nature and for educational purposes only. For specific financial advice for your situation, please consult a professional. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the show. Welcome back to another episode of Profitable Women. Today, I have a fun conversation because I get to bring on a client of mine who's also a CPA, but doing and using her CPA license in a completely different way. And I just love when I get to see how other people do things differently and go about something in a new way. So today I have Janet Berry Johnson, who is a CPA, financial educator, and daily money manager. Prior to launching her own business, she worked for a top 200 firm and specialized in income tax consulting, compliance for individuals and small businesses. In 2018, she launched a content writing company where she focused on writing about accounting and taxes. Her work appeared in New York Times, Business Insider, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal. In 2024, she launched Firefly Financial Organizing, which focuses on helping families organize and manage their aging parents' finances so they don't have to worry about missed bills, fraud, or financial chaos down the road. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about back in 2018 when you started your content writing business. What was that transition and that decision? We've had a couple other guests on the podcast recently who have gone through a similar career route and then all of a sudden decided this doesn't fit. I'm going to switch and do something else. So what was going through your mind or your life during that first transition?
Yeah. So the firm that I worked for at the time, everybody in the firm was expected to contribute to the blog. And I really enjoyed the writing and I got a lot of good feedback from it. And so I thought I would do some freelance writing on the side just to grow my personal brand as a CPA. But it turns out that it's hard to find people that understand taxes and accounting and can write about it in a way that's understandable to non-CPAs. So pretty quickly, I just started getting people reaching out to me and asking me to do content writing for them. At the time, my son was a toddler and I was working, 70 plus hours a week at this CPA firm. And as my side business income started growing, I thought, I can actually be home with my son and, make an income doing this. And so that's when I decided to stop working at the CPA firm and go out on my own as a content writer.
Yeah, that skill set of being able to explain, let's call it a complex topic in more terms and ways that anybody can grasp it is a unique skill set. And not one that I would say a lot of typical accountants who think with their brain in that sense have. So yeah, I love that you saw this avenue of being able to create something that aligned with where you were and the season of life that you were at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Your season has now since changed because your kiddo's not a toddler anymore.
Nope.
And he has grown and is he in high school now?
He will be next year. So he's in 8th grade this year.
Okay. So tell us a little bit now about the transition from just having the content writing business to what made you go into the daily money manager and financial organizing business.
Sure. So, as you can imagine, AI has really changed writing.
Yes.
And it's interesting because I am still writing and I do still have a lot of my income still comes from writing. But I started looking forward and thinking, will that still be a viable option 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I'm already seeing some clients choose to have AI write their content and then ask me to fact check it because AI is
Right.
good for some things. Tax advice isn't always one of them. So I do fact checking for AI writing sometimes, but it's not really my passion and that's not where I want to spend the rest of my career. So I started thinking about what might come next. And when I worked in the CPA firm, I had a lot of older clients and they would come to me. And my joke was that any mail that came in with a dollar sign on it came to me. So we'd be sitting in their tax meeting and they'd say, well, what is this? And I'd say, well, that's your power bill. It says you haven't paid it. And they're like, well, did I pay it? And I was like, well, I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't tell when I'm sitting in your tax appointment whether you paid your bills or not. And so in the back of my mind at that time, I was thinking there should be somebody that can help with these kind of things because their CPA doesn't necessarily want to get into the day-to-day paying their bills and their financial advisor doesn't do that sort of thing. So as I started thinking about what I might want to do next, I remembered back to helping those clients and I actually just Googled like person that helps seniors with their bills. And I came across the American Association of Daily Money Management, and that's exactly what they do. They help seniors, but also other people, maybe people that travel a lot or just have other reasons that they can't handle their own finances. And they do the day-to-day stuff like bill paying, managing paperwork, reviewing bank statements, making sure that they're not, falling victim to fraud and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting over the next few years as that generation is getting to that age of needing that. What do you see when you have those conversations with your clients? Are you mostly first talking to the aging adult, or are you talking with their children? Who is it that's, reaching out to you saying, hey, I need the help with this?
It's usually their adult children that have kind of seen mom and dad decline in their ability to keep up with that stuff and they want to help them out.
And is it that their children are no longer local to the parent, or is it that the child is at this point busy in a lot of sense with their own lives and maybe their own children, so they don't have the time or energy to put towards certain parts of helping take care of their parent?
It's really both. I have some that
Okay.
don't live near their parents, some that very busy lives and careers and kids, and then some that have maybe tried to step in and help mom and dad. And then they start butting heads for one reason or another. Those family relationships can be sticky. And so they're looking for somebody like maybe a independent third party can step in and not have that, relationship baggage to deal with.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. Family dynamics can always be interesting. And I could totally see how it would be beneficial to have a third party come in and say, okay, we'll take care of these things. So then the time and energy that you do put towards this can be focused on the relationship or the building the memories of what you still have instead of arguing over whether the power bill got paid or not.
Right.
What do you typically see that comes up from? I'm always curious about money mindset and how, in various scenarios, that plays into the results and the outcome of whatever's happening. So, what do you typically see or have you seen with the aging generation? Is it something that money is something they're openly wanting to talk about? Is it because they don't want to talk about it that the issues arise? Or is there conflicting between the child and the adult in this situation on how they view the money? What kind of comes up from a mindset perspective around finances?
I think a lot of the people that I work with, they have not talked openly in their family about money. Or if they were, it was more of a we don't have a lot of money conversation. So now their adult children is kind of stepping in and it can be tough for mom and dad who have kept that private for their entire lives to then suddenly be open with their kids, whether they're have plenty of money and aren't worried about retirement, or they are worried that they're not going to have enough to last. Just letting somebody else in is often really tough for them.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's something that they have struggled with or trying to figure it out, how are we going to make this work? I could totally see how having your kids come in, as parents, we just want to protect them from anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so opening up and sharing that, hey, maybe things are a little bit harder or tighter and not wanting that burden to be pushed to them could totally be just a protection
Yeah.
mechanism as a parent, but also goes to show at some point it has to be talked about, right? That the kids have to learn from somewhere. So if the parents aren't sharing those lessons with them or having those open conversations, then those children had to learn from somewhere. And now, yeah, we have the barrier of them stepping in to help their parents when it was a situation that wasn't talked about can now make it harder.
Mm-hmm.
Do you typically see that the mindset carries over? And so what the parents believed or how they kind of talk about it is then how the children are talking about it with them now? Or have they came up with their own mindset and narrative around money that is maybe different than the parents?
That's a good question. Since I'm not really dealing with their adult children's money, I don't think we quite get into those conversations. But I do have, even though I really focus on working with seniors, I do have people that are maybe more in their middle age reach out to me.
Okay.
And maybe they're struggling with budgeting or spending problems or just getting bills paid on time for whatever reasons, whether that's healthcare or, health issues or just time. And what I hear a lot from them is shame. Like, I should be able to do this myself. So that's something that we kind of work with a lot of, getting them to say, like, you don't need to feel shamed about this. Like, you can talk openly with somebody. I'm not here to judge where you've been. I'm here to just help you move forward.
Yeah. And that is a very common theme that I hear also in the small business owner world of, I should understand this, or I should be able to do this, or I should be looking at my numbers. And so they carry that shame and guilt around not doing it or not having a system for that. But if we stop and think about it, if nobody taught us that, if we didn't put forth making it a priority to learn those things, why should we? Like,
Yeah.
we have that responsibility in some ways of making it a priority, but also at the same time, it's not something like learning to walk that's just supernatural, that
Hmm.
you witness somebody else and then you can, start taking steps and walking as a baby. Like, it's not built into the natural evolution of how we grow up. So it does require us to, at some point, say, like, this is important to me. I want to learn it, even if it feels hard and it's uncomfortable and we currently have all of the emotions around it. It's still something we can figure out and work through. What do you see as some of the biggest fears? Your bio talked about missed bills and fraud as being kind of some of those things that we're protecting around. But what are some of those main things that you are truly like solving for the client?
A big thing is helping people realize where their money is going. I think it's so easy these days to just click one button. You have the entire world of shopping on your phone at all times. And so it's really easy to just overspend and not really think about it. And I see a lot of people, even people that are older on a fixed income, that are just, I'm going to have the instant gratification of buying something now and worry about paying for that later. And so that's something that we work together to say, okay, here's the actual numbers. Here's where the money you have coming in. Here's the money you have going out. And yeah, getting bills paid and making sure they're not having people take advantage of them financially is important. But also it's sort of having a better idea of how much you have and having the confidence to know the position you're in.
With that, then how much are you involved, if any, towards the end of life or that planning of the transition of wealth, if there is any in that, parent does pass away, then what happens? Are you involved at that point, or is it really just the day-to-day up until then?
I do talk to them about it. So obviously I'm not an attorney, so I'm not getting involved in estate planning and stuff like that. But I do talk to them about, do you have a will? Do you have a power of attorney? If you've named your adult child as your financial or healthcare power of attorney, are they aware of that? Do they know where to find those documents if they need it? And so if they don't have that stuff in place, I can connect them with an attorney that can help them set that up. But that's a really important part of preparing for that transition. And also trying to simplify things, because when
Yes.
you're in your 40s, you might have had no problem managing 15 credit cards and 5 bank accounts and, a 401k here and IRA there. But as we get towards, sort of winding up their financial life, we really try to consolidate, not only because it makes managing their finances simpler now, but it also makes it easier on their adult children as they're wrapping up their estate.
We only have 2 accounts to close instead
Yeah.
of 20 that have the smaller
Yeah,
balances in there or whatnot. Yeah.
exactly.
And I mean, that's also a good lesson for us at any age. I think a lot of times we do overcomplicate our finances
Yeah.
and trying to manage all of the different things and all of the payments at different times. And so any way that we can simplify that whole process or automate in certain ways of scheduling auto payments and knowing that we have a way to still pay attention to how much is going to places, but without having to open and log in to the, 20 different online accounts that now, because we have to enter 2-factor authentication and all
Oh,
of that,
yeah.
it takes so much longer to get in to be able to see those things. So yeah, any ways that we can simplify and streamline that process for us, I think is beneficial in helping maintain some sort of financial system that we have. And I think the other part is taking the decisions out of it too, because decision fatigue is real in today's world. So the more that we
Definitely.
can, especially with our finances, decide once or decide, here's our priorities, we're going to set things up so that our priorities are in mind and automate, if it is certain amounts going to savings or auto pay the credit cards or whatever it may be, automate that because we've already made that decision. And now we don't need to make that decision every month over and over again when we know those are our priorities. And then we can revisit and spend our time looking at, okay, are our priorities still the same or have those changed? And if they have changed, then maybe then we go through the effort of actually switching up things rather than having to make that decision every month. Let's pause the content of the episode to talk about taxes for a minute, because they're not just a once a year thing. They're one piece of the financial pie, but not the whole thing. When you're running a business, waiting until March or April to think about taxes is like waiting until harvest season to start planting seeds. You need regular financial conversations, you need up-to-date financial data, and you need a strategy that supports all the moving parts: your income, your expenses, your growth, and yes, your taxes too. So here's your reminder. Don't wait until tax season to find your accountant. Build that relationship now, before the holidays and year-end rush, so you can fully take advantage of their expertise and secure your spot on their calendar. At Sheila Hansen LLC, we're currently accepting new business clients through our monthly support packages. That means you don't just get help at tax time, you get support all year long. We'll keep your numbers organized, your strategy aligned, and your peace of mind intact. You can learn more and apply at hansenllc.net, because your finances deserve attention year-round, not just in April. Now back to the episode. Okay, so with the two businesses that you have going, you said you're still writing some, and that is kind of one target audience and clientele and topic. And then you have another business that is, a different, because I would say your writing is geared more towards businesses,
Mhm.
probably in the financial sector or some sort of education along the financial sector. Your Firefly organizing is more on the individual level. So how do you balance the two from a marketing perspective, from finding clients, even the workload? What does that look like?
I'm kind of intentionally slow about building Firefly because I do have a lot of writing clients, and it is a very different business because I'm getting so deep into other people's personal finances. And I don't want to, take on a dozen different clients and then not serve them well. So I think just taking on, a client here, a client there, and being very intentional about how I grow that is really my goal so that I'm doing a good job. And I'm really learning as I go because, like you mentioned, the two-factor authentication,
Oh my goodness.
getting involved in all of their accounts, making sure I have the right access while also protecting them. It's every client that I work with is different. So I want to make sure that I'm doing the best I can for them and developing processes that make my job easier as I go too.
Yeah, for sure. What has been the most fun or enjoyable about kind of making this pivot and transitioning a little bit to something that I would say, while it's still related to finances in a traditional CPA sense, is not that. So, what's been the most fun for you as you've dug into this new business?
Yeah, I think with writing, I've worked from home. I've not had coworkers for, nearly a decade. So with my new business, I've been really focused on working with people here locally in Omaha, Nebraska. And that's kind of forced me to market my business, to go out and talk to people and meet people. And as a natural introvert, that doesn't come naturally to me, but I've actually really enjoyed it. And I think it was a skill to go out and network and talk to people and talk about my business. And I wasn't developing that skill for a long time. So now I've joined a few local groups and I've really just enjoyed getting to know other people and having that human connection again.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of us that now, a couple years post COVID, right? We made the transition to we could adjust. And for some, as a mom who also either owns a business or is working, whatever that looks like for you, in a lot of ways, it made it easier, right? That we could just be home and do the thing and kind of jump back and forth between the two really easily. But what we miss out on that is that personal connection and
Yeah.
just in person interactions
Mhm.
that we weren't getting for a while. So I can totally relate to that, how that could be really beneficial in getting back out into networking situations and meeting people. And there is a big difference in when your business is set so that you can work with anyone anywhere, basically, versus having local clients or people that you would meet face to face or more in person regularly, whatever that might look like. There is a big difference between the two.
Mhm.
So I can see how that would be exciting to get to experience, but also a brand new world in a lot of ways from the way that you've been doing business
Yeah.
in your writing business for so long now.
Yeah. And, I have girlfriends in the neighborhood that are other moms, but it's funny. Most of my friends work in healthcare. And so their businesses are very different than mine. So we don't
Yeah,
really talk shop a lot, but getting out into the community and meeting other business owners and talking about marketing and talking about networking. And it's been a whole different thing to talk to other small business owners. I've learned a lot just in the last year of just having other connections to talk to.
that's awesome. And I love that we can have that community aspect where it is a let's share what we know instead of looking at each other as competition, or really when we can come into those spaces where it is there's room for all of us, help us all get there quicker, faster, whatever it might be, more easy in flow. There is so much power in that. I think especially for women and maybe even more so as moms too,
Mm-hmm.
just because there is so much that we're managing and balancing on any given day. What have you seen in all of the different ways that you've worked in, financial topics now, whether it was going back to being a CPA and having the conversation on taxes? What do you see as some of the common money mindset topics that come up without the person really understanding that's a money mindset thing?
I think one of the hardest things for people to do, and we've touched on this a little bit, getting over the I should be able to do this.
Yeah.
I should have everything taken care of. I should understand how to budget, how to manage my money, where I should invest, all of that stuff. I kind of think of it like, when I started my business, my writing business, I never really had to market. People found me. And so when I started Firefly Financial Organizing, I was like, wow, I need to market my business. And I actually don't know anything about marketing.
Yeah.
Like, I got the content writing part down, but marketing is not it. And I could have, watched a million YouTube videos and read books and taught myself marketing from top to bottom, but I didn't have the time to do that. And so
Yep.
I reached out to a friend of mine who is a marketing consultant and helps small business owners that don't have huge marketing budgets market their businesses. And I think it's the same thing when you're talking about money. Like, yeah, your clients could take an accounting class. They could, watch hours of YouTube videos and teach themselves everything that they need to know about bookkeeping. But is that really where their talent and passion is? Probably not.
Yeah. And that brings up such a good topic, because I think what ends up happening in that scenario where we do try to bridge that gap on our own is we spend so much time and effort in those, let's call them, early steps or steps 1, 2, and 3. But it's not in those steps that the result and the impact of those come from. It's actually getting all the way to the end where we have the data or we have the information that we're looking at, or we're going to make the financial decisions based on the real facts. But if we spend so much time and effort just trying to get this system in place or piece it together, we're maybe not actually getting to a place where we're getting to look at the numbers and make the financial decisions from those, because the time that we have allocated is to those just getting it, posted, call it. And so then we don't actually benefit from going through the effort of learning all of those steps. And so we still end up potentially confused. And now it's just taking up more time and energy. And we don't feel like we're actually in any different place because we haven't integrated the full process of it. So I love that you kind of recognize that from a marketing perspective for yourself of, hey, I can cut out learning all of this and have somebody come in and show me or help me with the pieces that are really important, that are going to make the biggest impact, and benefit from those results without having to go through and learning and maybe getting stuck partway through and it not actually all connecting because we haven't gotten our full degree in self-study, whatever. We're still in, beginner 101 or intermediate classes, and we haven't gotten all the way there. And that leads me, also, you are a CPA. You obviously do budgeting and financial things for other people. And yet you've still hired somebody to do your own business bookkeeping and helping you maintain that financial system for your business. So I think that does go to show there is value in really paying attention to where is my time and energy best spent. And at the end of the day, if I have a limited amount of time to do certain aspects, you understand the importance of, okay, it's looking at the final numbers and analyzing those versus spending your time posting and, in the day-to-day of QuickBooks, you'd rather use it so that that time is spent looking at the data, making the decisions. And so, yeah, that is a really good point. And I think it comes back to, again, there is just this narrative and topic that we don't talk about money. It's not talked about. I think we're starting to slowly change that narrative. We can maybe benefit, social media in some ways, that it's easier to access those people that are talking about it if we really want to learn. There's places we can go to do so. But for so long, like you said, if your parents don't talk about it, you begin to learn that narrative of it's not something we talk about or not something you ask questions. And if it's where we don't feel safe asking our parents about that, why would we feel safe going to ask any other human about it, right? If that connection with our parents doesn't allow it to be safe, of course it's not safe to ask anybody else. And then that just becomes like, well, I don't know what I don't know. So what questions would I even ask if I did have somebody I could ask the question to? And that then I think is where that should cycle just continues of, I should do this, but I don't know how. I should do this, but who do I listen to? I should do this, but what system is best? And then we just get caught again in the decision fatigue of, well, it's a priority, but how do I even get started?
Mm-hmm. That's why I just think it's important, whatever sort of problem you're having, if you're putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, that's telling you something that you don't want to deal with it.
Yep.
And it's important to find somebody not only that knows that, but can talk to you
at that level.
Yeah. They're not going to talk over to you, keep you in the dark. Don't you worry about it. I'm going to take care of it. You don't need to know this. You find somebody that understands it and can relate it to you and tell you what you need to know. I think that's really important and valuable.
Yeah, very much so. Well, I have enjoyed this conversation just because I enjoy talking with you, but also just from another CPA, what you see from your various financial businesses and backgrounds that kind of relate to what I see from my side of things with how I work with clients. If people want to find you, where can they do so for the various businesses?
So I'm mostly on Instagram at Firefly Financial Organizing. That's all one word. Or fireflyfinancialorganizing.com. And if you reach me through either of those places, that's where I'm at.
All right. Sounds good. We'll post those in the show notes. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your business journey with us. And for the audience, we will have another episode for you next week. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Profitable Women. Make sure you never miss an episode by hitting the follow button in your favorite podcast player. And things are always easier when you talk about them with a friend, so be sure to share this episode with them. If you're looking for more ways to grow your financial confidence, head to the show notes for a link to subscribe to our weekly email. Until next time.